was the first farmer who planted a seed and grew our world. It was the birth of progress. Because someone could grow a little corn, some wheat, rice, humanity could grow everything else. This is the power of farming. The power to grow our civilization. But who could have predicted how big civilization could get? Our population is increasing. Our natural resources are declining. And our planet's climate is changing. So farming needs to change too. And it has. With smarter tools, sustainable practices, and ever higher yields, farming gives progress to the world, and the world is giving it back to farming. We're Corteva Agriscience, and we're here to support the people who support us all. With stronger seeds, precise crop protection, and data you can count on, we're bringing the next generation of farming to the next generation of farmers.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to the Corteva Agriscience session of the ISF Virtual Congress. My name is Jozsef. I'm the communications lead for Europe of Corteva Agriscience, and I'm going to be your host together with my colleague Eric Dereudre, who is the Global External Affairs Director at Corteva, at today's session. So we are going to talk about some key trends in agriculture and food production, topics like trust, innovation. But before that, because we are still a new company and it may not be that familiar for all of you, let me start with a quick introduction of our company. So we are Corteva Agriscience. We are a global, standalone, pure-play agriculture company built on the strengths of our three heritage companies, DuPont Pioneer, DuPont Crop Protection, and Dow AgriSciences. We just celebrated our second anniversary, and actually we published our first sustainability report at our second anniversary 4 weeks ago, actually. And we have more than 20,000 employees who are working, every day on bringing new products, solutions, and services to our farmer customers all over the globe. We have three platforms. We have the seed platform, we have the crop protection platform, and we have the digital agriculture platform. And talking about the seeds, as we are a seed congress here, so some of our brands like Pioneer or Brevant may sound very familiar to you here. And so let's start. And Eric, while you are doing your job and you talk to many external stakeholders around our industry, what are the key trends you see you are facing in agriculture and food production? What are the trends that are really are sort of forcing companies to change the ways they operate?
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Joseph. Hi, and hi, everyone. Things are always changing, right? So, and if I look back at the 25 years of I've been working in this industry of agriculture, many things have changed. We're talking to the farmers, to the policymakers, to the consumers. Many things have changed. But if I have for today to pick a few trends which we see in the society, in the policymakers, which have the magnitude of being transformational for the way we as a company operate in our seed sector, but also in many other sectors and for other industries, I would say two trends come really to my mind. The first one is we're moving from a situation where the consumers were interested only or almost only in the characteristics or the attributes of the product he were consuming or buying, to a situation where now the way this product has been produced, has been created, is, let's say, as important. This is a significant change in the way we have to respond to that. This is a significant change in the behaviors, purchasing behaviors of the consumers, and we have to take account of that. So that's a move from that's the how and the what instead of the what, just only the what before. The second significant evolution is about the trust and the confidence of the society and the people in established governmental bodies and established regulation, which have been regulating for many decades, which have been regulating and evaluating the activities that our sector, particularly in the ag, highly regulated sector, have been doing, right? So this is a little change. Now, if you see that from the half empty glass, this is an increase of the lack of trust and confidence. This is quite worrying, actually. If you see that from the glass half full, this is a little bit more positive. It's really an intention here for the society to not only rely solely on the regulation and the policymakers, but also to rely on their willingness to participate themselves in solving the big issues that they want to address. So a little bit of kind of a call for self-responsibility of the consumer and really act through their purchasing, through the big changes they want to do, instead of relying on the regulation only. Of course, this is driving many changes in how we do operate. This is changing also and creating the need for the private sector and all companies like the seed companies also to engage in corporate social, corporate environmental responsibilities, and probably also going toward more voluntary actions that we used to do in the past.
And how, so talking about that, so how Corteva is concretely reacting to these trends?
Well, of course, we observe that and try to respond to it, right, with voluntary actions. This is really what we are trying to be a little bit more vocal and visible on what we can do voluntarily. But there is one element in which we really value and really believe in is the value of the transparency. Being more transparent is a fundamental request now from our customers. So fundamentally, it's not new for us as a company, right? But the context has changed in such a way that we need to make it a little bit more substantial and a little bit more central or centric of how we do operate, so this transparency element. So specifically on our seed platform at Corteva, we recently launched an online seed product directory where the public can look and see what breeding technologies have been used to create and make the products we market. Should they be corn seeds or sunflower seeds or oilseed rape or soybeans. So this website is really for us a reflection of our commitment to openness. It's a reflection of our understanding that not only what we do, but also how we do it is a great of interest to the consumers. We also believe that will ultimately help our farmers, our customers, the farmers, to be successful and more successful in their agenda to gain trust and confidence on how they produce the food that the consumer needs. So a message for the Congress here today is we really encourage the entire seed industry to take a similar approach on transparency for the same reason that I explained before, but also because if we all collectively show our willingness to open the dialogue, we can increase the public understanding and support for our new innovation and technologies. As a government affairs person, I also think it will help provide the policymakers with a robust voluntary baseline and standard that they can rely on when they develop new policies. So when they will develop new policies, if they have this baseline of voluntary transparency on the technologies, it may help the policymakers to focus on outcome-based policies, which focus really on the goals where they want that they want to achieve with the policies, instead of being prescriptive policies on the how we do it. So, and we know that these outcome-based policies are the best environment for our industry to be effective in developing new innovation and new technologies. So that's really what we are trying to do today on that aspect of transparency.
Okay, yeah, transparency and trust. I mean, certainly. I mean, and now when you think of trust, there's one thing that is even requiring more efforts and really more energy from our side to gain public acceptance and confidence, and this is innovation and the new technologies. So how do you see the role of innovation in these among these future trends?
Well, unsurprisingly, as an R&D company, we put innovation really at the center of who we are and what we do as a company. So innovation is central for us and vital for us. We are convinced that we will solve the many challenges that agriculture has to address nowadays with innovation in the future. By innovation, we of course talk about new products, we talk about new services, we talk about new practices on how to put those solutions in place at the farmer level, at the food chain level, etc. To be honest, this is what agriculture has always been doing for decades, if not centuries, right? Ever evolving and improving the practices. The primary objective of agriculture and the role of innovation in that remain the same, is to produce enough food in quantity, in quality, in diversity to meet the ever-changing, growing population needs and requirements. That remained the block of the goals for the innovation. But as we move forward now, we keep adding new goals to the farmers, to the food chain, to the food system. The goals to do that same goals with less surface, to do that same goals with the new climate conditions, to do that with greenhouse gas emission reduction consideration, to do that with less impact on the environment, on the soil, on the biodiversity. So that's these new goals that keeps adding to the pile. And we're convinced that this very dynamic ag sector has the capabilities to integrate all of this, but will need innovation. We believe the solution will come by expanding the toolbox of the farmers, the way they can use this toolbox rather than reducing it and coming back. So it's a looking forward rather than a back movement to the past from a technology standpoint. So innovation is at the center of what we do.
And what do you see as the major obstacles on the way of innovation? What stands in the way to include more tools in the toolbox of the farmers?
Our ag sector is, as everyone knows online, is a very highly regulated sector and discipline. Seed segment is not an exception, highly regulated sector. So maybe one of the limitations for innovation I would see is, or let's say more, not for the development innovation, but more for the access to the innovation. One of the limitations is the fact that regulations evolve at a much slower speed than innovation itself. So that creates a little disconnect of the capabilities of the private sector, but also the private sector to develop and get to the market with new innovation and the ability actually to get access to that market. So that's really probably one of the barriers, because it creates, of course, uncertainties for innovators like private sector or public sector who might become reluctant to invest with these uncertainties on the regulation. So we are here today in Switzerland. We are here today in the middle of Europe. We saw the map before with the presenters before about the gene editing regulatory aspect. We saw the Europe in red. We are here in Europe. So gene editing, for instance, is, of course, one good example of what this barrier could be. Another barrier, I would say, this one was more an external barrier. Another barrier I would see is the internal barrier, more internal to our sector, and comes from the fact that the challenges we will have to face nowadays in the ag sector to help the farmers to cope with those challenges are becoming more and more complex. They will require more and more or broader panel of tools, broader panel of expertise and solutions to holistically address the challenges that the farmer have to address, because they are multi-factors by essence. So this complexity of interconnected factors are making also an internal barrier, which may require some structural changes in the way we do innovation in our industry. There's not going to be a one magic solution. It will be a combination of solutions. So that's creating a new need and requirement for our sector to address from a capability standpoint. So one internal, one external barrier.
And what Corteva is doing to overcome those barriers. So is there a way you see that we can accelerate access to innovation, access to new technologies, or is there any specific program that you invented and you think it's a good way forward?
Yeah, maybe Joseph, two things. One internal again, and one more external. One big reflection we had as we built Corteva a few years ago is is the concept that to be successful in our ability to innovate in the ag sector, we need to enlarge our knowledge base. As I mentioned before, the things and problems become much more complex and multi-factor. So internally, we address that by combining our different areas of expertise. Seeds, of course, we are in the International Seed Federation Congress, so these seed capabilities, but also the crop protection element, the digital element, the artificial element, the way we put all of that products together are for us a key element of the synergies we can gain by combining all of these and probably be a little bit more effective in our innovation target. A good example of this, if I may say today, is our recent developments and fast developments in the seed applied technology, for example. The seed treatment and everything that goes around the seed, which is, for me, the essence of precision agriculture, right, is put the solutions around the seed. This is really at the intersection of our seed capabilities and our crop protection capabilities, and we have developed that capacity in a very short period of time, and we are very, very excited here with the potential that this development has for a company like Corteva and for the many customers in the seed industry that we serve. So that's for the internal piece. But we also believe the innovation will require more collaboration externally. I think this is now obvious that all of those challenges, no one can solve it all or solve them all, will require a combination of solutions, will require the addition of competencies and skills and capabilities. So more collaboration externally is really also something that we are trying now to establish on the way we do operate as Corteva. So it takes various forms, it takes various stakeholders' involvement, the private sectors for sure, the public sectors, the universities, the non-profit organization, all of those actors have their play in the game, if you wish. That's what we also are trying to collaborate with. It can also take the forms of different aspects. It's of course traits, should they be native traits or gene-edited traits, but also around the breeding and the genetic gain that we can achieve through the innovation, the enabling technologies, as we mentioned before, the gene editing or the CRISPR-Cas technologies, but also the biologicals, the crop protection, the digital solutions. So all of that will also be part of what we will call the external collaboration, if you wish.
You mentioned a few examples.
A few examples also, it can also take different ways. It's both ways for us. It's really for us as Corteva to integrate external capabilities in our R&D platform. So on our website, we post regularly R&D challenges or research challenges that the researchers all around the globe have the internal and external have the potential to help us to solve. So that's this type of collaboration that we are looking for to solve some challenges that we have internally. So that's the inward. But it also goes outward, and this is the other aspect of our open innovation is for us to share our capabilities, in some extent our intellectual properties also with others through licensing or development agreement. So recently, and I really encourage our participants here today to check on our Corteva.com, we have created an open innovation website where we put here the guidance and the guidelines for us to collaborate inward, outward with the external world. So we have put that website online, and since we did that last years or 2 years, we since have signed multiple agreements with external stakeholders to advance. We really believe this is a way for us to leverage and accelerate the access to innovation for the farmers.
Collaboration, open innovation, as you mentioned. So that's certainly an encouraging approach. But do you expect policymakers, regulators to do their job here as well? And how should they? What do they need to do more to better promote? I would say this new direction, this new approach. Do you expect them to react to this?
Yeah, indeed. We hope for future policies to create a favorable environment for innovation. Indeed, this is really what we hope. We actually, if I may, this is our expectation for the future policies, right? And I think we discussed across this Congress this week about many policies discussion, right? We discussed the COP26, we discussed the UN Food System Summit that will be happening soon. We also talk about the gene editing policy policy evolution. We discussed that for Europe, for example. So many policies discussions are going on. So we have expectations for those policies to be innovation friendly, or at least be an incentive for the private and the public sector to broadly and actively and effectively innovate, because this is really for us the solution. So in that regard, if I may, want to share with our participants here, we expressed 3 expectations for those policies conversations. The first one is to ensure that those guidance and those policies are outcome-based. In the sense of they define clearly the ultimate goals that needs to be addressed for political reasons, and also the metrics to use as a measurement of progress, or whatever sector, private or public. So outcome-based, rather than preconceived notions about how we should address the issue, or unilateral restriction on the tools and solutions that needs to be used to address that goal. So let the creativity of the public and private sector generate the innovation that will meet that goals, but define that goals clearly is something that the private sector is looking for. We are looking for as Corteva, because it will enable us to innovate more effectively, more targeted to what are the political trend and the demand also from the society. I mentioned the private sector. For us, the private sector is of course the companies like the ISF members. It's also the farmers, and it's mostly the farmers. So this is a second expectation we have for all of those policies conversation, is the farmers to be always centric to the conversation, because nothing will happen without the farmers being centric and central to the implementation of their policy. So their role and their value and has to be acknowledged and values in the future policies. This is really what we are asking. The third element we are really asking the policymakers to consider in those discussions is to ensure that those policies are developing clear market-based mechanisms that will really support, in such a way even incentive, the farmers to adopt the new technologies and the new practices that are that will enable to achieve the goals that they want to achieve in the outcome-based goals. So really a market-based mechanism. If I may say that a bit more simply, it's incentive from the demand side to incentive the farmers, but also to incentive the consumer behaviors change, instead of arbitrary and coercive constraints on the supply side. So that's really what we are looking for. We are passing these messages as the external affairs team of Corteva to the policymakers or the influencers, and they are very much aligned with what the IFS have issued recently as the ISF declaration to the UN Food System Summit. So I was very pleased to see that, and we are of course supporting it actively in our external outreach. So that's really what we
I just wanted to. So, but how optimistic you are that this is going to happen with this change in the attitude of officials and regulators and policymakers?
I think we are probably a bit more optimistic than a year or two ago.
Okay.
The recent crisis has probably wake up a few concept and a few awareness on the importance to have a resilient food system, and how innovation and access to the innovation is critical and central to that food security and that food resilience. So I think it has created this type of level of awareness, which makes us a little bit more confident that those elements will be considered. On the outcome base, I think we start to see also some policies driven by outcome base rather than being specific to the restrictions. There's still some work to do. We've seen that recently with the European Green Deal, but also the Japanese Green Deal, for example. But there's some hope that the outcome-based and the market forces approach will be considered. So, in any case, all of us, all of the ISF members, have to also contribute to that narrative. Definitely important.
Thank you. So we have a couple of questions on the live Q&A. So a question from a participant from Pakistan is, what may be the possible effects of increased tools, on number and duration of product development? So the more tools are available for developing products, so will that result in increased number of products, market offerings, or what will be the impact on product development of these new tools?
Yeah, the more technologies and the more tools we have at our disposal to create our product will generate, of course, a multitude of new options and solutions. We were hearing before that it will come for the companies who have big capabilities and capacities in R&D, but it will come also from a lot of new players, right? The startups, etc. So that's also a very, very vigorous ecosystem that is now created around the ag sector, which we are pleased to see, and that's why also we are eager to collaborate with all of those companies in and out. So we are very hopeful that it will create a more creativity and more opportunities for that. We're just asking for the regulation to go a little bit quicker to accompany this movement, or at least to not block it. But that's really a positive outcome of the situation today. And those technologies are really accessible to many companies nowadays. So that this is also a very exciting moment to be in.
Okay. Another question also from Nepal. How can Corteva engage in upliftment of farmers' livelihood in South Asia?
Well, this is a really important question, which we have always been working on. But it's true that since the COVID situation and the food security question and the resilience of the food ag system, I think it has put the smallholder farmers at the center of the resilience of the food system. So the smallholder farmers is becoming an element. I think in certain regions like Asia, you mentioned Africa, 80% of the food supply is assured by smallholder farmers, out of which a big part of that is women farmers or female farmers. So that's a group and communities that we are addressing by ensuring that our supply model is delivering the products and the technologies to those farmers. But we are also developing now new programs to train those farmers to the new technologies that we have. So we have a big program as part of our sustainability goals to outreach to the smallholder farmers in those regions and train them on the new products, but also on the new practices on how to improve their economical resilience and profitability, but also, of course, their production and productivity of food for the local communities, but also for exportation. We have to realize that in many situations, right, even the exporting power of certain countries is heavily dependent on the accumulation or the addition of all of those smallholder farmers, if you take the rice industry, for example. So that's really what we do through our sustainability programs, and I really encourage the participants to go on our website to see our commitments for sustainability. That includes a significant element towards the smallholder farmers and the farmers all around the globe.
And some information is also available at the resource center of the Congress as well, so you can check that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. I think it's the end of our session. So I'll leave the floor for a wrap up if you want to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jozsef. It was an interesting dialogue, and thanks for the participant for the question. Probably there's many others. We will be pleased to answer the questions afterward. Thanks to the ISF team for the opportunity to reflect today on some key challenges and opportunities for our sector and how Corteva is willing to contribute to it. Thanks the participants for listening. We remain available after the Congress or during the Congress to follow up on any questions you may have or to continue the exchange, particularly on our Corteva Open Innovation platform. So we are looking for the rest of the Congress, and in the meantime, I wish you all a good rest of the week, and back to you, ISF team, and thank you very much.